Hey guys, Eric at SoCal Cigars. Hope you're having an awesome weekend. I know I am. I wanted to do a real quick video on kind of a basic topic, which is cutting your cigar. Most of us have our go-to method. We, like anything else, you find something that you like, that works for you, that you're comfortable with, and you just kind of keep doing that. In the cigar scene, other than maybe a new fancier lighter or maybe a new blend of cigar or flavor profile of a new cigar that comes out, not a lot changes. I mean, lighters are lighters, cutters are cutters, humidors are humidors. It's there's not a lot of new earth-shattering innovations that are happening in the cigar world on a regular basis. And I have seen some fads come and go when it comes to cutting your cigar. I know one, I can't pronounce it, I'm not going to bother. I'll put a picture of it, but it starts with the SH, I think. It's like a shirika or something, and what it was like a little cup, and it has like 5 little razor blades in it, and you would stick your cigar into it and it would make 5 little slits. I'll put a picture up. Again, it was kind of a new thing and it was kind of cool. I'm like, oh, this is cool, but it didn't seem to catch on. I didn't think it worked all that well because I think the draw was never really good enough. So I think a lot of people that use that device ended up recutting their cigar like with a guillotine anyway. So again, good on them for coming out with something new, but again, all the cigar things I go to, which usually can include up to 60 people smoking cigars at one time, I've never seen anyone have that. So clearly, at least in the world I'm in, it didn't catch on. So for the newer people out there, I wanted to kind of go over the basics and actually show you. So I've selected 4 of the same cigar, and I'm going to sacrifice a few here just to make sure you know how to cut. So let's start with the basics. A guillotine. So there's several types of guillotines, and I've showed you this in other videos. This one has 2 opposing blades that come together. You can get them with serrations, or you can get them where there's only 1 blade. In fact, I've got one here. Like, for example, this just has 1 blade. See, like an angled razor blade. And then there's other ones that I don't actually have. There's actually one kind of like this that actually the back is solid. So when you open it and you put the cigar in, it bottoms out on a piece of plastic back here so that it's trying to ensure that you never cut too deep. So there are a couple different options in the world of the guillotine, but overall it's a guillotine cutter. And you're literally going to open it, put the cigar in, and clamp it shut, and it's going to cut the end off. So again, for the newer people that aren't so familiar, if you look at the end of the cigar, I don't know how well it's going to focus. The lighting's kind of crappy, but you'll see that they wrap a cap on the end that keeps the binder from, the wrapper and binder from unwinding. So if you have ever cut a cigar down too deep and the wrapper on the outside starts to come undone, that's what's happened, is you've gone past the cap. And so on this cigar, it's hard to tell, but right at the top of my fingernail is where the cap is. So where you want to cut is anywhere above my fingernail. Okay, so let's just go ahead and I'll show you that with a standard guillotine cut. Okay, so I'm going to try to show you. I'll put it in just to let's see if I can get a good view. There we go, maybe like this. So I'm just going to put it in about like that, just so I'm really cutting the dome off, right? And I'm going to do kind of a quick movement. You ready? Okay, and so as you can see, what that does is it just cuts the end off. Yeah, it's a fairly decent cut. But one thing I'll let you know too is there is options on this cut too. Some people will actually cut it at an angle, so that instead of the cut being flat like this, it's actually like a little bit of an angle. I'm not sure that I've heard any big reason why that is the way to go, but people do that. Anyway, so that's just your standard guillotine straight cut, okay? The next thing I want to talk about is a punch. Now, punch you can use on most cigars. You're not going to really be able to use them on like a pyramid shape or like a torpedo. But any standard cigar you could use it on. And ideally what this would be for is a box press cigar. And I'll put a picture up if you're not familiar with a box press cigar. But a box press cigar basically has been put into a mold kind of like that. So it's like a little rectangularly flat cigar. And it's really hard sometimes to use a different kind of cutter. So that's why they have this punch. So again, the punch, okay, what it is basically it's just a circular razor blade. Okay, so the only trick on the punch is you want to line it up. So you want to look to make sure you're right in the middle. Okay, just like this. Okay, and then what I do is you just gently start rotating. Okay, You don't want to just jam it in there. You want to rotate it because it's a razor blade and you want it to start making a very thin cut. Just twist it a little bit, and then when you pull it out, you'll have a perfectly round cut. Okay, and you'll have a little plug that's stuck now inside there. I love this cut. I think it's a fantastic cut. Probably by far my second favorite cut to a V cutter. But for a box press cigar, this is the way to go for sure. Okay. And then what you would do with this kind of rod afterwards is see, it ejected. I don't know where it ejected it to. It went pretty far, but it ejected the little cap. And I wanted to show you this. So as you can see, that's all that was cut off. That little tiny piece, okay? Versus this was the dome that was cut off with the guillotine cutter. Okay, so it's a much smaller hole. So the issue you could run into with this is if you do have a cigar with a tight draw, you may have to end up cutting it like a guillotine anyway, because the hole is really one size and that's kind of it. So if the draw doesn't work on this one, you're going to either have to cut it or you're going to have to use a cigar reamer and ream out the center to get a better draw. Okay, so here's our guillotine, here's our box, or here's our, I'm used to it being on a box press cigar. Guillotine, straight cut, punch, little circle. Okay, next thing. My favorite cut, and probably the most popular right now, is the V cut. Okay, so you can see, and if you actually look like this, look as it comes in. See how it's like shaped like a little V there? Okay, so what this does is you just rest the cigar into this divot, and you just close it right on it. Okay, this makes a fantastic cut. It always seems to make a great draw. Ever since I've used this cutter, there's really no other cutter I like to use. This is just kind of it for me. But this is where the innovation comes in. There is, probably new to you, perhaps, not new to the world, because people have been doing this, but I'm going to show you what I'm talking about in a minute. Let's start with the V cut though. Okay, we take another fresh cigar, and because it rests in here, it's not going to go past the cap. It's already been engineered to where when you put the cigar in here, it's already going to be above where the cap line would normally be on a cigar, so you don't really have to worry about cutting too deep because this is controlling that for you. Okay, so you're just going to literally put that in, and you're just do another quick snip. Now you can see that's made a nice deep V shape cut into that cigar, and this opens a lot of surface area to be able to let the smoke come through, and this makes it, I've never had, unless the cigar is pretty much faulty, I've never really had a bad cut or draw from a V cutter. Now here's where, if you've gone this far into the video, this is where you're going to get the new information. There is something out there called a crown cut. Now what that is you're simply going to take your deep V and you're going to make a deep V cut. Okay, and that would have been in straight up and down. What we're going to do is we're going to rotate our cigar so that that cut is now 90 degrees from that. Put it back in, do another straight cut. Now that's what they're calling a crown cut. Okay, so you're using a deep V, but you're now making two cuts, and that leaves it looking like a little crown. Okay, and I will be honest with you, that's the first time I've ever done a crown cut in my life. So we're doing this together. Isn't that awesome? So what I want to do now is I'm going to light this sucker up, and I'm going to see if there is some huge benefit to this crown cut, and if it's something I might add into my bag of tricks. The only issue I could see is maybe having too much draw, because most people are always talking about how the draw is too tight. You can have a cigar that it feels kind of too loose. It's almost like if you've ever gone from a cigar to smoking like a tobacco pipe, the draw is so loose you feel like you're sucking in half air, and it's a weird feeling. You have to kind of get used to it. So you can actually open up a cigar too much and have too loose of a draw. So let's see let's see how this pans out for us. We'll learn together today. And for those newbies, what we're doing now is we're toasting the foot. So all I'm doing is I'm just getting the foot blackened a little bit, darkened, so that when and again, I always refer to this like char cloth. What this is doing is it's kind of pre-lighting or prepping the tobacco to ignite, so that then when we go to actually do our light and we draw through it, it makes a very even, quick, flat burn surface, because really the way you light your cigar can kind of, at least in the beginning, and it can self-correct if you don't do it right, but you don't want to get where it's half of it's burning and then you end up with an angled burn and you've got to touch it up and hope it self-corrects and all that stuff. Anyway, let's take a okay. So just from that alone, and I know these cigars are a little tight. This is just a kind of a cheap Dominican. It's a Cusano, Connecticut. Not a great cigar. I got these as a bundle, and these, to be honest with you, a lot of times I just give these away to people because I don't enjoy them that much. So I figured it'd be great for this video. But I'll tell you right now, being concerned on this cigar about too much of a draw, not a problem, because this already almost still feels like a tight draw. Yeah, it's a tightly wound cigar, but let's light it up and see what happens. Yeah, it's a tight draw. Yeah, definitely am not concerned about that here. And this is probably only a 50 gauge. It's a little smaller, a little longer. It's like a Churchill. It's like a 7-inch, but it's like only about a 50. So it's not, if you're doing a 54 up to like a 60, this might be better. But what I'm trying to see, and I'll tell you this while we're getting into this, so you're not just watching me smoke, you're actually hearing something maybe interesting. Is that there was a study done, I don't know if you want to call it a study, but someone out there did this. And then what they wanted to do is they sort of did what I did. They basically took all of the same cigar, right? And they cut it in different methods. They cut it where you did a straight guillotine, I think like an angled guillotine. They did a punch, and they did a V-cut. They didn't do a crown because I don't think this was really on the scene at that time. And they had people try the exact same cigar, but smoking them from a different cut. And they did notice a flavor difference based on how the smoke was leaving the end of the cigar and hitting your taste buds and your tongue and insides of your mouth. So there really was a difference in how you cut your cigar in the taste, which I thought was very surprising and very interesting. But anyway, right now I'm definitely not feeling an overdraw on this one. If anything, this cigar is a little tight, and that's nothing to do with the cut. It's just been rolled too tight. So one observation I'm noticing is that because it's been cut both ways, like at a 90 degree from the first cut with the deep V, I'm noticing I've got to put the cigar in my mouth deeper in my mouth than I normally do, because when I do a normal V cut, this part and this part are still there. And so I can put my mouth over it, and it's almost like the cut is going right along with my mouth. So it just kind of funnels right in. This one, because there's another cut on top, I feel like I've got to put it in, and I have to have my lips cover the end of the cigar more than usual, which means I feel like I'm getting the end of the cigar more wet than I normally would. So that's the only observation so far I'm seeing. Yeah, this is a really tight draw. Not a great cigar either. That's why I give them away. I give them away. And again, it's not like I'm being mean. I tend to have cigars like this because oftentimes when I'm in a situation where we're all smoking cigars and having a good time, there'll be somebody who is now intrigued and they're like, oh man, I've never tried a cigar. They're not going to know this cigar from any other cigar. They won't know this is good or bad because their palate is nowhere near developed yet. So it's not like I'm being a jerk to give them what I consider to be a bad cigar. It's more that they just don't know the difference. So rather than handing them a $20, $30 cigar saying, here, try this, I'd rather give them one of these where this was probably like, I don't know, $24 for a 20 bundle, something like that. Do the do. Yeah, so I would say Perhaps this is more of a novelty. I don't feel like I'm getting any better or worse draw than if I had just V-cut this and didn't do the 90-degree turn and make it a crown cut. Maybe give it a shot. Maybe a bigger cigar it might be better, but I will tell you the only drawback I've seen so far, because it cuts nice, it holds together, it's not damaging the end, it's not peeling back, it's holding together just fine. It's not like I would say this is a bad cut. Like I'm saying, it's probably one of the newer methods on the scene that I have seen in a long time, because really the last innovation I saw was that 5-bladed razor blade cup thing that didn't seem to catch on. And since then, I mean, there hasn't really been a big innovation in the cutting world, in my opinion. But this is something new. It's a new way to do it. It's taken a V cutter that already exists and putting a twist on it. So I think that's kind of a cool innovation. I would definitely give it a try on one of your cigars, see if you like it. Just like I'm saying, the only thing that I've noticed that it's not like it's a huge drawback, but I don't really like is the fact that I've got to put this thing in my mouth farther than I would normally want to do. So I feel like I'm getting the outer wrapper wet. And I'm trying to feel how it's drawing into my mouth versus like a different cut. So I will tell you that when you have just a straight cut like this, it does tend to just kind of flood into your mouth. I do notice that when you have a cut like this, you don't taste anything. When you have a cut like this, you do sort of notice that it sort of does kind of just stream, like a little jet stream right into the center of your mouth, right over the top of your tongue. You really can, as you start, discerning things like having a palate, you can also tell the difference in some of these things. And what I like about a V cut is the way it's open like this, is it's almost like it almost comes in, from two angles, and it really puts like it's like double wide over the top of your tongue, which is where you're tasting all those different aromas, and then you're able to retrohale and get all the other flavors too. But I sort of can tell that this one is sort of doing the same thing, but it's almost like I'd say, what it almost seems like? It almost seems like this, but just much bigger. Like that's really what it is. It just feels like it's a bigger stream coming right over your tongue, and it's almost to where it's hitting the top of your roof of your mouth too. So, if you have a really flavorful cigar, maybe that is an advantage. You're going to get a bigger flood of smoke this way. So maybe it's something to give it a shot, Yeah. Yes, I would say that, like, it makes sense. This is giving you like a bigger volume of smoke per draw. So there you go. Crown cut. Maybe something new in the cigar world that we haven't seen. New things coming in the way of cutting in a while. Will it catch on? I don't know. Will it be the next V? I don't know. And the good news is you don't have to buy a different cutter. You've already got it, probably, if you have a V cut. So I would argue, give this a go. Maybe you'll like it. Maybe you won't. Maybe it's indifferent. But I would say, why not give it a shot? Because if you've already got a V cutter, just cut it twice instead of once, and you're there. So anyway, hopefully this was informational and helpful and reasonably interesting. I thought it was interesting because I haven't seen an innovation in the cutting world in a long time that's actually stuck. And so now that I'm starting to see a little bit more of this crown cutting being done, I'm really curious to see how this pans out and if this kind of becomes like another standard method of cutting. I will tell you though that the group I run with, I have never seen anyone do this crown cut yet. So again, I'll be watching to see what happens and see if this maybe picks up. But anyway, there's another thing to try in the cigar world. So give it a go. Anyway, Eric at SoCal Cigars. Hope you continue to have an awesome weekend. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day, so hopefully tomorrow you have a great day with your significant other. And feel free to make a comment. Let me know if you do try this. I'd be really interested to hear what you have to say, and if you thought it was worth doing, not worth doing, if it made a difference or didn't make a difference. So anyway, let me know. I'd be interested to hear. So until the next video, go enjoy a smoke. Maybe try a new cut. Interesting. Yeah, I think I'll try it on another cigar too. Maybe I'll give this a couple rounds. on a few different sticks and see what I think before I draw my final conclusion. Anyway, we'll see you next time.